Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Full Throttle Agency Playbook, a 10-minute rapid-fire session. Today's focus is going to be on Zerograph technology and the cookieless world. My name is Amal Pine. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Full Throttle, and we also have Louis DiGiacomo, a Director of Platform Innovation at Full Throttle as well. Lou, can you remind us what we're here to solve for agencies?
Sure thing. So we're here to help agencies innovate and feel confident with future-proof technology, obviously increase online conversions, help them provide partnerships and infrastructure necessary for scalable marketing activation. Every client wants more data, deeper understanding of trends, better insights, and then finally, every agency is hyper-focused on client retention and driving revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. And today's big focus is really on number one, which is innovative, future-proof technology with the world of the cookie apocalypse and everything that we're going to be talking about today. Really, really important that when agencies think about what is the best investment, what is the best technology they can use. And myself, having been on the agency side for so many years, it's hard to find a tool that does everything and also insulates you from what's happening in the future. So really, that's going to be today's focus. It's called Zerograph. It's the full throttle tracking and attribution part of our technology. It's really the underlying source of everything around attribution, around measuring influence, around tracking technologies in the world of CCPA and mobile IDs and all the changes that are happening from a technology standpoint. So, Lou, what are like the three things that are happening, in the landscape? Talk a little bit about it, but for our audience, let's go to even more details.
Sure. So obviously a ton going on, but to try to distill into three core things, the first is browser technology. Google Chrome phasing out third-party cookies. Safari and Firefox have already done so. Just kind of the general ecosystem of browser support needed for some of these cookieless solutions. Choosing sides. Why
do you think Chrome is one of the later ones to phase out the third-party cookies?
Well, Google has a ton of revenue that comes from ad dollars. I mean,
Sure.
ad, that's a massive piece of of their tech stack. So I think they wanted to give themselves time, first of all, to pivot, and then also just because there's so much already baked in surrounding Chrome. Obviously the lion's share of browser usage. So a lot at stake there.
For sure.
And then next, mobile device changes. Essentially breaking news, Apple iOS 14.5 update, app tracking transparency. Will this be the death of the device ID? So many different verticals in ad tech are affected: location targeting, behavioral targeting, attribution, retargeting. So massive shakeup there. And then finally, privacy legislation, CCPA, GDPR, setting the stage for a lot of U.S. states, a few dozen already with their own laws. And that's the legislation world is just going to get more complex. There's going to be a lot more nuance to it. So something we're all going to have to keep an eye on, even with the recent changes.
That's an interesting one because with the privacy legislation, it's almost like a ticking time bomb, right? Like and that's the challenge with a lot of the legal stuff is like, well, will I ever really have to worry about it? Am I a small fry? Am I someone that really has a target on my back? And I think it's tough for agencies to think about, well, what's my scale? What's my size? Are my clients at risk? And I think the challenge is that even if it's, if you're smaller in the sea of targets that are going to be available for legislative actions, the more successful you are, the higher chance you're going to have a target on your back. So I think it's something really important for agencies to think about it. If you plan to grow over the next 2-3 years, you will have a target on your back. So it's really important to think about, how are you insulated? How are you protected? Are you investing in the right technology to keep yourself protected, from that standpoint as well?
Yeah, one more quick thing to add on that is obviously all 100% true. And then just as you want to grow as an agency, that's one of the first questions you're going to be asked by potential partners, by new clients, by ad tech partners. Are you prepared? Are you compliant? And If you can't confidently answer that, that is going to limit your growth potential.
Yeah, For sure, for sure. So tell me a little bit about what we're seeing on the screen here.
So this is essentially what, one of the new notifications is going to look like from app tracking transparency. And it's bringing, that opt-in to the app level. So users on an individual app basis are going to have to opt in to say, yes, I want to allow, this tracking to take place, as I move, across other, verticals here. So it's obviously one of Apple's goals was to make it really explicit, make the opt-in super obvious to the user. So obviously on the flip side of that, big tech, Facebook and stakeholders are worried that that's going to just, almost sound an alarm and be discouraging to the users.
For sure. And this is the same kind of stuff, right? You're seeing this type of information. People are going to be skeeved out. For those that don't know, or for those that have heard the hype, it's like, oh, this is that thing they're talking about.
Exactly. They're going to read this list and say, oh, wow, you know what? Maybe I don't want something like financial info and location, just kind of out there to the world, which it has been, by the current standard,
Yeah, for sure. So, I think it'd be great for our audience, and I'll chime in here, allude to, and just talk a little bit about, what is Zerograph really, without getting too technical. I know we focus in on keeping this thing 10 minutes for our audience, not too long. But a lot of it is our 6 pillars. Each one is a cookieless mechanism as part of building our identity footprint. For each household. So just a couple examples. I won't go through all of them. One is called location queue, where we're getting latitude, longitude via the browser, not via the creepy app on your phone that's giving it away that, Lou kind of just talked about, but we're getting it, through the browser. We're using something called Zero Local, which is a cookieless way that you can, use browser caches essentially and storage techniques so that you get around, having to use some of the third-party cookies, which are essentially the things that we're phasing out. We also have kind of a unique way to be able to tie browser identification tied to our overall graph, and making sure it's the same person that we're seeing back again, the same household with a different device, et cetera. And for those other things, the other 3 pillars that are on there, a lot of that is really about, if there is legacy information, if there's offline information, which is part of our overall technology stack, depending on what you're using and what you're giving us, we use all of that together. We kind of suck in everything that's available to us to really build what that Zerograph footprint is. So without getting into the super technical side, these are the ways that these are 6 pillars, the way that we really identify, track, and do attribution in a world without cookies, without the Apple changes, any of the privacy legislation, really affecting us. One of the things that I think we get a lot of questions from agencies today, from a lot of our clients who are resellers and agencies too. How do we think about the idea of owning your own data? How do we think about, everyone's trying to come up, really with their own solution of, I have something that's, post cookie, Google's, others have it. Is there, and I see we're kind of talking a little bit about the console or the format wars. Like, give us an analogy. Like, how do we think about owning our audience? How do we think about, has this happened in the past? What are the lessons that we can learn from history?
For sure. So thinking about that analogy, the console or format wars, multiple competing tech, a handful of competing tech. In a broad sense, there's going to be new tech entering at different times, some dying off prematurely. Nuance to each tech option you have, specific partnerships, overlapping users between all of them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the power resides in the advertiser that owns their own data, the one that owns their retargeting audience and has the flexibility to take that audience where it needs to go. And then you take that idea, you take the advertiser who owns their own data, and then combine it with a partner like Full Throttle and tech like Zerograph that's not based on cookies, not based on mobile ad IDs, and you have a recipe for true reach, activation, measurement in this post cookie, post mobile ad ID world.
Sure.
Like you said a few minutes ago, we can ingest legacy tech as well. We can make sense of that while kind of future proofing and providing insulation for the activation, measure, identification of the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's key for agencies and their clients. How do you make sure you don't, give away your data just to Facebook? How do you really own your data? Understand that there is a there is a list. There are real people behind this magical audience that I've collected on Facebook or anywhere else. And how how do, as a client or an agency on behalf of a client, how do they say, look, we can tell you who they are. We can own that data. And now that we've insulated ourselves, we can take that over to any platform that we want to activate. So if tomorrow there's the next big thing, which isn't Amazon, it's not Facebook and Google, who knows, right? It could be the next big thing. It could be TikTok or whatever comes after TikTok, right? You're able to take your data and you're able to take it to these other platforms, activate it, because it is your data. You're owning it. You know exactly who they are. And this Zerograph ability to own that data, that's really what powers the entire full throttle tech stack. Just to give a kind of visual feel for exactly what's happening here. Oops. Shit. I'm going to pick up in a second. So for Kelly and the team, just cut out all that stuff for the space in the last 10 seconds. Okay. So just to give an idea to everyone, how does this work in the platform? How does it work in our technology? Just to give you an idea, again, there's households that we're looking at owning your retargeting audience. Any mile radius, any date range if you're using a particular product, shopper suite, and then you can actually go and see. For a particular household, I clicked in on Bill Knight here. You can see exactly how his experience has been. He's been a new shopper. He started at 1025, and you can see we have a Zerograph ID for him here, and he continued shopping, over time, over devices, and potentially will jump to new devices. So this is really how we put that together. Again, for our clients and for our client agencies and their clients as well. So that's really what powers the entire tech stack. And, just a reminder for everyone, the things that we aim to solve for agencies is to deliver innovative, future-proof technology. We talked a lot about that today. Ultimately, that has to help you increase your online conversion. You have to be able to do it in a way that you don't need to rapidly grow your team when you grow your business. And that's how you make your marketing activation a lot more scalable. And bringing that level of reporting, just like as you saw right in the data, right in the interface, you can see exactly where you see the Zerograph ID, how we track that over time. Bringing that to your clients gives them something much more tangible to hold on to in a world where they know all these things are changing. There's so much stuff in the news, and it's really hard to get a grasp on it. When you see it and you can kind of feel it with your eyes, that gives a lot more stickiness when it comes to client retention and understanding where your additional revenue sources are coming from. So that's what we have today. My name is Amol Champagne. Again, I'm the Chief Product Officer of Full Throttle. We also have Lou DiGiacomo, Director of Platform Innovation, and we hope everyone enjoyed the session today, and we'll come out with our next playbook soon.